So we're just talking today with Coach Becky at BluSky about how you can make trading your own and really fine tune it to your personality and how you see the market, and so that you are playing to your strengths and have the highest potential for long-term longevity and getting your most successful trades. So we kind of already just jumped right into this topic to this week. And this here, we're talking about what type of personality you are and how understanding that about yourself can help us fine tune our own personal playbooks so that we can take our best trades and set ourselves up for the most success as traders, because you're kind of more in sync with who you are. So patient and analytical is you're kind of comfortable waiting for those high probability setups, and you really enjoy research and hunting for the biggest, strongest strategies that really have a high probability win rate. And so you prioritize quality over quantity and will miss many trades because they aren't really an excellent setup, which is absolutely a way to trade. But that is not always as common in the futures trading world. And one that is, pretty common with futures is that action-oriented and quick mindset personality tendencies. And so that is someone who thrives on fast decisions. You're really energized by the market. You want the volatility. You want to be there for the volatility moments. You want to be able to understand and put risk on when the market is moving. There's some momentum energy with that type of person. You're comfortable with the rapid executions. So getting in when you see this, and you don't have to hesitate. You don't hesitate as long and wait for a larger time frame candle to close. More so, you're quick with it based on your strategy. That personality tendency is a little more common in futures because that's kind of part of the way that the futures work, right? It's pretty quick. The money adds up pretty quickly. You can copy it and really have it make a big impact. But then, there's going to be a mix of all of these as well. Just because one speaks a little bit higher to you doesn't mean that that's the one that who you are. What's up, Fred from England? I'm very happy to have you here with us at BluSky. So what about methodical and risk averse? That's another type of personality. And so in this situation, it would be you kind of value the consistency and preservation. You're very purposeful with your position sizing. You really prioritize very clear rules, and your strategy, your trading system, your playbook is more specific, and you really dial in exactly how you get in and out of trades. Another potential is opportunistic and adaptive. And so in that situation, you spot the patterns really quickly, you adjust to changing conditions, you're pretty comfortable with calculated risk. Now, all of these are, and there's probably easily 10 more. I just had to make it not too big of a slide because there's just basically different ways that we have a tendency to behave, things that we look for, and how we tend to act when we're at our charts, when we're creating our system, when we see the candles printing, what time frame we prioritize and kind of lock into. And so this is part of kind of the background of that. If you think about what type of a person you are when you approach anything in life and business and strategy, that can help you fine tune your playbook, basically. And so let's talk about what that might look like when we get into trading. Coach Matt is keeping an eye on the charts. Thank you for that, sir. So when you are matching your personality to your trading style, there's a big portion of that is around the time frame and your execution model for that, because your psychological tendencies can really be a guiding light in which you prefer, which you tend to focus on, where you create your strategies around your approach to entry and exit. Opportunistic. There you go. I think that's a great approach, honestly, to trading, because missed market is abundant and there's going to be opportunities. And so having some patience with that is powerful. I think knowing your natural style and also your life opportunities. So for that, I mean, like when you have time to be at your office, when your family doesn't need you, when you don't have to be multitasking, obviously you shouldn't be driving or anything like that. You can just really focus in on your trading. That needs to fit with this as well. So your style, your personality tendencies, your situation in life, what you are able to focus on, that should be a part of creating a system that works to who you are, because that will really pull off some of the unnecessary stress that you might experience if you're pushing yourself to do, say, Coach Matt is very successful and he only trades this hour of the day. And so I'm only going to do that. And if I don't maybe see a trade during that time, well, I probably should, because Matt wins. And so I want to win. And so that's where the drive to copy could be strong, but maybe that time just really doesn't work for you. Like you're on a different time zone and your family has needs during that time, but you want to try and get his success. So you try and do what he's doing. That is an example of fighting the style and causing more stress in your life. And when you're carrying stress coming into a trading session, that does not help you make good choices. And it's going to reduce your performance. You're going to end up with a rough P&L if you're forcing a situation that does not intuitively work with your situation. So based on that last slide, we could think a little bit about what that might look like intraday with a trading opportunity. So if you find that you're more of the patient personalities, you are comfortable having a robust system and an A+ setup that you're really good at waiting for, and you can withhold pushing the button when the candles are printing, that can be a really good personality for some awesome swing trading opportunities, because you really are comfortable letting a daily close, thinking about where we're at the end of the day, letting trades set up, watching it fall into a support zone, and not just entering when you work into the support zone, but entering when it creates a candle pattern down there that is your pattern. That is a really great more patient personality. Yeah. Work around trades around your work. It's tricky because like a lot of us do have other jobs, right? And so that's exactly it too, of when you are distracted or you have to be at your other job, it's a hard time to multitask and to be in two places at once. And so the swing trading is a great potential for that, because you can oftentimes have a day job and then look at your charts on the higher time frame and manage them not as up in the business hour to hour, 15-minute candles day to day, but instead you can wait for your confirmed breakouts and then watch for a key pullback. And then what do you see in that pullback at that key level in order to enter or exit your trade based on that candle presentation. And then you also generally, if you're patient, you have some more patience with holding through the fluctuation of the market, within your parameters. And then you can exit based on, your specific targets, target 1, target 2, based on your levels. You can wait and hold for those. That's a little bit more of a patient personality. You can trail your stop and let things ride, hold trends longer. This is a great trend personality, having the patience to let it go if it's still moving, or even if it was in a small pullback. Patient people can really do well with trend following. Aggressive personalities tend to really, at least in the beginning, gravitate towards scalping. So with talking about all three of these today, all of these can be blended and you can shift. If you find that when you first approach trading, you can adjust, from where you naturally start your inclinations at. I think the market moves at a different pace. Following it requires a lot of consent and experience. Each case has its own way of trading. Yeah. Market conditions will change, and it will play to certain strengths at different times. And I think that that's a very real thing to try and respect and recognize that happens, and that the more market cycles you can be a trader through, as the years build up in your experience, you can kind of learn what conditions will favor what style, and you can a lot of times modify, because a part of becoming a long-term trader is working through this conversation today, is working through what comes easy to me, what doesn't, how do I navigate that, because it will all come into play. There are times when you need to be very patient, and maybe you are an aggressive personality, but you can recognize saying this could be a killer long-term trade. So this is an opportunity for me to push my patience, how I want to strive to be a more patient trader. And so these are starting personalities and so I want to talk about them because I want to highlight the fact that we all generally will have a tendency that speaks more clearly and comes more easily to us. And then there is a point where you can sort out that certain market conditions will thrive differently, right? So for that middle one, that aggressive personality, you might really feel driven to trade fast. So the 1 minute, it might be your execution chart, and you would monitor them on the 5 and 15. I mean, you could still in that situation draw levels on larger time frames, but intraday, you would be a quicker in and out of charts, quicker reaction to price action. You would need a smaller confirmation candle presentation potentially, maybe just a tap of a level, and then you're in and you move it. You watch order flow. Footprint is in order flow are both very fast data points that you could keep up with once you learn them. You have a sense for momentum. You can see, when a candle is really pushing aggressively, we're not giving wicks, we're just moving. You would see that more quickly and be able to comfortable capitalizing on that. And you could take multiple trades in a day, because when you see a trade, you take a trade and you want to capitalize on the opportunities. Oftentimes this will be someone who scalps in a way that you could get out fast. And so that's that multiple trades in a session, you in and out more. You would take it, from a potential pivot point to a pivot point, in and out. You could hold a runner, but it would be a runner. It wouldn't be you're holding a monster trade from pivots to big time frame pivot. That doesn't fit as much with the higher aggression energy, if that is your personality jam. Now, the last one here is kind of a balance, which is great. And I think that that is where a lot of futures traders, even if you start aggressive or if you don't, this one becomes pretty common in the traders that last even like long term as a futures trader or merge. They trade both futures and they swing. You generally can have a good balance. And that isn't necessarily intuitive for everyone right away, but could be something that you figure out. In that situation, there is a 15-minute chart. A lot of times is highly sought after and watched and traded based upon. And then the hourly can drive a lot of it too by seeing the direction that you want to see and then trading in sync with that direction based on the larger time frame, such as an hour. So with this one, generally you only want to take 2, 3, 5 max trades a day because you just won't get that many opportunities. You need to see a specific setup at key levels during your market trade. So it's starting to dial in more specificity in what you're looking for, what you're comfortable taking. So it's like you have some patience, but you also want to get a couple trades off during the day. And so you have your levels identified and you're watching for them move. Okay, ES trader. I like that. I'm ES too, Fred. So this combination on this last one here, it's a combination of bigger concepts, but also quick movement. And so targets based on time-based levels and you are generally in and out during that day, not holding positions overnight because it's more of an intraday style. So all of these can be merged. You can really develop the ability to lead with one of them in certain situations, like on news days where there's a lot of volatility and you think that you understand and see the levels and want to trade in that situation, you're going to have to be aggressive and quick because those candles move very fast. So if you're going to trade that, you have to bring that sort of intention to that chart in that situation, unless you want to wait for a bigger time frame secondary pattern and it's something that you are interested in holding long term, potentially for a swing. And so, there's different ways to work all of these, and we all could be a combination, but I would argue that most of us will have a natural inclination to one of those. Like Jaja feels it with the aggressive personality intraday scalper. To be honest, that is me also. I am an aggressive intraday scalper. I don't mind putting on a little bit of size and then scaling out and manage it actively. But I have had to, over the years, fine tune myself into more of the balanced personality where I'm more particular. I want to see a little bit more confirmations. I want to lean a little bit more on the higher time frames. And so I'm actively, shifting a little bit to more balance because there's so much opportunity in the market. And I think in that role, I can do, overnights or small swings, as well as slightly bigger intraday holds, because if I'm trading more off the 5 and the 15 versus the 1 and the 5, your targets will be a little bit farther distance. And so you could get more points that way when you can work up to that, right? So I kind of started the next one already, but strategy selection is the priority with this conversation. It's kind of the main point of we want to have the most success as traders. And so we want to make our trade system, our playbook, be who we are, speak to who we are, see it more clearly, be able to capitalize on it as readily as possible so that we can set ourselves up for success. We can recognize that this other strategy that so-and-so does, I love that for them. I don't really like it. It makes me uncomfortable. It makes me edgy. It feels against who I'm doing. So maybe you just don't. Maybe you just let them do their thing and you focus on what seems to work for you. Ideally, with backtesting and trading results and your journal entries, validating the fact that that is true. It's not just an urge to be in and out and rake in points, but it's more so like data driven, how we're making this identification of our system here. So beyond the timeframes, I like this point of it. It's like the setup, right? Matt even said again today, he catches trends, not trades. Correct me if I'm wrong, Coach Matt, but he really has developed a lot of strength with patience and bigger timeframes and the fundamentals behind it, and letting a really good trade set up patiently, wait for what he needs to see, and then take a more methodical trade. And so that really supports the trend following, the continuation, the longer timeframes, the more large trades that you can hold for longer periods because the setup really set up and you have patience with that. That is a continuation trader vantage point a lot of times will lend to the more patient. We can maybe see more mean reversion trades when you're a little bit more rapid and you're thinking about the extremes. There's contrarian energy behind that, thinking, the whole idea of what goes up must come down. And so when we're at the standard deviation extremes of a day's range, are we going to create a wick and come back in? Today we did not. Today was a break of structure down. And so I think about trading so that you can make your edge work to you. Like there's this Mark Douglas quote that I threw in here. In trading, your edge isn't what you know, it's what you see clearly when others don't. And I like that speaks to you can be really good when you are trading with what you see, not what someone said or what you think you saw or what you think you should see. Like you see a bearish candle, so you short, but more you understand the context and the market structure around it. And it speaks to your breakdown strategy, and you have multi-time frame resistance up there. There are a lot of validating reasons why you would be in shorts. And so I think this is a big deal with understanding your personality, is thinking about which type of trade you see more easily. And the argument could be that maybe you are a trend follower, and so mean reversion is not as intuitive. So then you can put as part of your work that you're doing as an evolving trader, focusing on making your business stronger as a trader, you need to target your kind of quote unquote weak areas where you don't see it as clearly. Knowing that about yourself means you can be kind of paying attention to try and capitalize on the ones that aren't as intuitive, if that makes sense. So that is here, thinking about the struggle zones. So the whole, a big part of this is that when you know what you really see clearly and you can put some size on, if you have the ability in your accounts to do that, that's the lean into your strengths, but also identifying your struggle zones and where maybe you want to step back and to take a break and not push it quite as hard. So knowing your strengths is recognizing the market condition that you are really good at and the ones that you historically have struggled at, and identifying those as early as you can and as clearly as you can will help you trade in environments that really are good for you and help you preserve your capital and your edge when they aren't. RQ, I believe, didn't trade today, right? He said, and the range today was not great. There was a lot of chopping, there was a lot of dancing, taking out highs and lows of candles, and so there you go. That's not everybody's jam. Those are not ideal setups necessarily. And so if and you can kind of see based on what the opening range is and what it looks like in the beginning, and recognizing we have very important fundamental data coming out tomorrow morning, it might not be your best day. Choosing to not trade on a day that has historically been a struggle for you is like such a win as a trader. Being able to say, this isn't really, I don't like these conditions. I would rather focus my time and energy somewhere else and save my mental capital just as much as my emotional capital. So, kryptonite, right? Think of Superman. Review your past losses and identify those patterns if you can. Is it a choppy situation where you tend to just get chopped up and give away all of your money in a bazillion paper cuts? Figure out how you can identify those choppy days as early as possible in the day, and maybe make the choice to just not be involved is really a great choice. Volume is an indicator that can help with identifying, when we're really getting some movement or versus when there's just not a lot of energy in the market. And so there's a lot of algos and scalpers just messing around. Or like high volatility news events, maybe those are great for you, or maybe those are not great for you. And so knowing what your data has shown on those days and which ones you want to avoid is so strong. And so calling that out even, and letting your accountability partner or someone who's close in your team know, I don't tend to thrive when it's choppy sideways like this, so I'm going to make a choice to not trade. Calling it out, naming it, telling someone, kind of like will validate it in yourself of like, I've decided I'm not trading today because of XYZ. And so I think that is such a strong choice. Exactly, Trendy, like huge growth for anyone. And if you have noticed and you have chosen to have the potential to trade, you're home, you have accounts, whatever, and choosing to not is a massive like growth point for traders. So I think when you figure out, I don't like choppy days, it's a problem. I get those paper cuts. What can you do? How can you identify that as early in the day as possible when you recognize the day has a potential to be a challenge for you? What can you notice first? Is it the VIX? Is it the volume? Is it the first 5-minute candles? Are they, barcoding and back and forthing on each other? That could be a sign for you that says, this is not my day because of XYZ. These characteristics that I see, I'm just going to back away. Likewise with the calendar, right? We look at Forex every day. That should be a part of your trading edge, always knowing when that fundamental news is going to hit, and then choosing to take the trade or not take the trade. If you can recognize that and make it objective and measurable, saying, if I see this situation, it's not my jam, I'm not going to trade, that will help you just be a part of your trading system and recognize that I just don't want to do it. Like, I'm going to have some maturity about my trading this day and I'm not doing it. And so using that information to kind of put guardrails around your trading. is really helpful because it can basically be like the warning signals that if you want to trade, maybe trade smaller. Recognize that we have this news coming in. So trade 1 or 2 micros instead of a mini, because maybe you want to gain practice, right? Maybe you can recognize that this isn't my favorite setup, but I want to be able to thrive on these days. Maybe you're a trend trader and it's really just back and forth. Maybe you want to be like, I want to try my hand at this mean reversion, but it feels weird to me. I am feeling some resistance. So I'm going to trade 2 micros so that I have the ability to scale and I'll get some skin in the game and I'll get to practice, but I take the leverage way down because it's not my favorite setup. And so that is basically a guardrail to your trading strategy because you're recognizing what you love, what you don't love. And if you're going into a don't love situation and choosing to work on that, you're doing it with appropriate parameters. And then, you can regulate it, that you can put up said guardrails in any number of ways. The amount of contracts, the leverage size, if you're trading an eval or a funded account, how often, how many trades you can trade in a day. You can put those risks on your accounts or stay flat, right? Say, I'm not trading this day, I'm not trading this session because of these reasons. Those are all really strong choices. And that protection is powerful because then you live to trade. And if you incorrectly identified it and it ends up being a great day, but you held back, the next day could be a day where you really see it well from the beginning and your account is safe. It didn't have any trauma to it, essentially. And so you can trade fully comfortably because you didn't engage in, mess around and find out type of day. Is that kind of making sense? Yes. Tracking with me, I hope. I'm really glad you guys are all here today. Trendy, Jaja, Amaro, thank you guys. Okay, so what if you have not thought of this before? What if this is new? What if you are working on it? Let's talk a little bit about what we ought to do to make it more a part of our system. Making sure we're personalizing our trading playbook is essentially the heart of it. And it does take a little bit of effort. It's good to put the energy in. And I look at it as when you work on your playbook, like with what Coach Matt is focusing on his technical, on his trading lab on Thursdays, he's really digging into strategies and criteria and methods of managing trades. This is similar to that as well, but on the psychological side of things, of putting forth the energy early to fine tune your playbook and understand the ins and outs of your trades really will pay dividends for years and years to come, because it's the focus work now that's building the foundation of your whole trading approach. And so I do think that it's a really strong choice to take notes on your days, and especially on the struggle days, why you think you struggle, what maybe you could identify earlier in the day, what your cinch point was where you got into trouble. Identifying those and then figuring out how to shift your playbook so that you don't engage in that will help you so much. Because say you make that mistake 10 times and it really sucked in 2025, but you identified it, you called it out, you told your trading people, you adjusted your playbook, you put little guardrails in your system with what you will and will not engage in. In 2026, you only did that kind of BS 3 times. I think that's a massive improvement. That is the type of work that traders need to be doing to treat trading really as your business, where you are growing it and making it sustainable for decades. Okay, look at our Q. See, he killed it on the London through the night, and he recognized there. See, when you trade at different hours, you locked in great points for your day. Call it, let yourself have a day off. But I would argue, might be a little sleepy after actively trading, maybe working on other work too during the night when I was sleeping. So that could be a guardrail too, of if you don't get sleep, or if you've already locked it in pre-market, maybe you have a strategy around trading the news before work, before market opens. If you lock in that early trade based on the volatility, maybe you call it a day. You go to the beach, you go to the mountains, you go for a hike, you go do a side project instead. That can be a part of a successful system too. And so the investment basically on putting some priority energy on knowing what you're good at and what you're, struggle at, can really help you lock it in, right? So when you create a thorough personalized trading playbook, that means that you put the energy here and you adjust the setups a little bit, you test your rules, you track it. And so if you think that you struggle most on tight choppy days, try to collect some data on that, try to journal it out a little bit, put a section in where you're journaling your trades for what type of day that ended up being and what maybe you could have seen. And then you can look back at that over time, track that results, and then make that a part of your playbook. That's what this work is. Basically, it's gathering your data, actually testing it, seeing it play out in the real markets, recognizing what it meant, what it didn't mean, what you could have done differently, making notes on it, and then adjusting over time. Not a rapid fire, like it was super bullish day and I just kept trying to buy the top and I screwed myself on catching the tip. One day is something to think about. Don't make rash decisions. You could have had a one-off, but this is more of like a multiple month situation where you're gathering all kinds of data. If you're having a one-off day where you just got in an argument with your spouse and you came in and you traded anyways, have some caveats with that. But putting the time here is really good because I think this is a little bit of a truth bomb. Most traders want the results without doing foundational work, right? So I don't know if everyone has a written playbook. If you have pages of either handwritten or Google Docs or what have you, where you have kind of really dug in, you have clearly delineated what your trade setups are, what you need to see, how you want to engage with the market. If you haven't, zero judgment, because I have absolutely traded without a clear trade book. But I know that this makes me better when I invest the time to build my system, to make it based around what I see. I trade better every time when I lean into that and I only practice the stuff that I really understand, and that is a part of what I choose to see and execute on. And so that will compound your success. By putting the energy in creating that strong foundational playbook early will compound your success over years to come. And trading is got to be, I think it's more sustainable when you do this long-term approach, letting it become your competitive advantage. And I love this last little bit here too about making it a living document that evolves with you, because the market changes. It just does. And heaven knows we're having a geopolitical situation in the world where there's just news will be moved. Like unemployment was supposed to be last Friday. I don't know if you all tracked that, but it was supposed to be last Friday and now it's tomorrow. And so there's so many changes that are happening in our world of being traders. And so constantly kind of staying vigilant on where you're struggling, where you're killing it, how that might influence how you adjust your system is going to be like really powerful for momentum forward. So I just want to spend a few minutes here and dig into some specific ideas. If you haven't done any of this work, or if you're kind of mid-process with it, maybe something in here will spark a way to go with it in order to just kind of shore yourself up a little bit and to get a little bit more specific, because I think that I love talking technical, and I think understanding a strong technical approach to exact candle patterns and timeframes and criteria and volume that supports, all of those things are super important. But this also will augment it and help you stabilize with the technical setups as well, because you can identify if you're really good with the M and the W patterns, put some structure around that and try and catch them sooner. So let's talk about these for a minute. What about conducting a personality style audit? So that can be you review what you journaled on your last 50 trades, which setups were natural, which ones did you execute easily with confidence, felt like you weren't even trading. You just put the trade on, immediately it was in green, it flew to your thing, you felt good, like you were basically logging the win before your last target was even hit. How did that feel? What setup was that? Which timeframes do you keep going back to? Which ones stress you out and you really just end up like going zombie mode on the 1 minute and micromanaging your trade, versus if you can be more patient and you're back on the 5 or 15 minute, how does that go for you? So look into your personal patterns and identify your best performers and your worst performers, and then kind of target what you ought to do with those. Like, is there a trend that you can catch in your executions and what you're choosing to do? To struggle with dynamic choppy days. Yeah. I think I don't know if everyone does this, but I have done it a lot off and on the last few years. Of when I write up my trade plan in the morning, at the end of the day, when I'm reviewing my charts and setting them up for the next day, I will grab a screenshot and I will say, I traded here and here, but the best setup was here and here. This is why, if this day were to present again, had I waited for the first 30 minutes to fizzle out because it was kind of back and forth, then this great opportunity presented at 35 minutes into New York session. So that type of like reanalysis when a day close will give you this information about what you could have potentially identified early and how you could shift if that presents again the next time. The second one here is define 2 or 3 core setups. And so you want to choose the setups that align with your personality and you can articulate them clearly. And so in that situation, if you can teach someone your trade, then you understand it stronger. Then you can say, I see these 5 things for this trade. When I see all 5 of them, I feel very good about entering in. This is how I entered. This is how I exit. that could be a core setup for you, because you can clearly delineate what you see, what validates it, what invalidates it, and why you don't see that. And so how you're going to get in, where you like to take your profits at, and then write it out. Entry triggers, risk parameters. And then I think that there is a lot of power in not rushing trading. So master a few before you keep adding. You don't have to have a playbook with 25 strategies in your first year of trading. You can have 2 to 3 for the first year and really become profitable, especially if you really understand them and have some patience around studying them and trading them specifically, and then fine tuning them over time. Make it a living document. A single day, single strategy, and they go days without a single entry. Yeah. I mean, I think some people really love this idea of, I see these couple core setups really clearly, and that's what I'm interested and available for. And I don't want to throw my money at maybe strategies, because no, thank you. Like, that is more of a business approach, because you really need to see what you need to see in order to be your most successful self. So I would encourage you, if you're a little loosey-goosey in clearly delineating your strategies, don't try to start having 10. You don't need 4 for a trend day and 5 for a reversion day. Start with just a couple, and then ask questions of your mentors, of your coaches. Ask Coach Matt. I know that he's fully available and loves these questions, as do I, and Riz and Mike. When I'm on with Mike in the morning, I think every time, I don't know, I don't think I annoy him, but I like to ask him, can you tell me more about how you felt holding that trade? Because this is how we can each shore up our systems. When you develop and you write out your favorite 3 setups, ask questions around them, make them stronger. And then when you start seeing something else, that's when you can add in a 4th one when the need arises and when the information presents, right? Also, you want to make risk management rules that fit with you as well. So position sizing based on your risk tolerance, not someone else's, not, someone who's been trading 15 years. Like, I don't know if you have seen when Mike trades in the morning, he doesn't trade micros and he doesn't trade one contract, but he's also been a trader more than a few years. So you don't necessarily want to just log on in the morning and take the same size that the owner of BluSky is taking, because that's not really probably the best plan when you're early as a trader. But you can take similar trades and adjust your risk management. Exactly. You're going to blow the crap out of your accounts probably on like one little pullback. But if you set your daily loss limits, you set your leverage size, you understand the scaling plan and your stop loss management, how many trades you can trade in a day, those you got to make your own. You got to make them non-negotiable, because this is part of a robust strategy that fits with where you're at in your trading. So that is a part of fully owning your trading as well, is by having these rules in place. I know, right? The 2K for Mike is a pullback. It's exactly that at my point, Jaja. Yeah. So this other one too is a part of the, writing it down, of documenting your struggle zones. So specific market conditions where you lose money, where that day ended red, where potentially you did blow an account. Why? Why did you blow it? Was it the market condition? Was it your leverage size? Was it you were trying to do something else that you didn't understand? Maybe in those days when you're working on fixing something, you got to leverage down. What could you have seen in hindsight that was a warning sign that this day could have gone badly? And next time that warning sign presents, what are you going to do? Can you shut down? Can you recognize that this could potentially be a really bad day for me, because I had this really bad day last month in these similar situations and I already lost my first trade? Maybe you can shut that day down, literally log out of your system and walk away, and then let a small loss sit instead of potentially compounding it and having another really bad day in certain market conditions. So write down your warning signs and then what you might do differently if you see those, recognizing they're not necessarily a clear indication that you're going to lose, but that it's a higher potential for having a red day. You can catch those sooner. That is a success strategy for sure. Yeah, exactly, Amaro. When you're down 2K versus 200, the stress level that you'll feel and your tilt potential is very different, because if you are sitting in a massive drawdown, 100% your body's flipping into fight and flight, because you need to protect yourself. You need to protect your account, your mental capital. Why the heck did you get in the position that was so big? How do you feel about your whole life? That you can tilt more when you're trading leverage that you're not used to. So that's why we want to talk about, which we've done in other labs, about making sure your leverage speaks to your situation where you're at too, which fits with this whole personality thing. Let it grow with time and experience. Part of how we can let it grow is with this trade journaling. So I think people are different with how they journal, when they journal, how much they journal, but journal something and then start making your own. Figure out what data points are the most helpful for you in your journaling system beyond just the numbers. It's easy to look back and see, I was read $500 on this day, but make it a little bit more robust. Were you emotional? Did you come into your training session calm, or did you come in unrested and frustrated about some other kind of thing? When you took your trade, did you feel very confident in it, or was it like a meh, let's see type of energy? Did you follow your rules specifically? In which case, if you're stopped out, that should be considered a winning day because you followed your rules in your setup and it just is the variance of the market and it went against you. That's still a winning day because you honored your system. But if you did not adhere to your rules and you ended red, that is important to recognize and maybe try and drill in to figure out the why behind that so that you could try to catch that sooner and not do it the next time. Maybe make it a little less impactful if you're in that situation again, psychologically. So you can do this daily, but then also weekly to figure out what is going well and what can you tweak. And that goes with the making your playbook evolve with you over time. If you find consistently that you're making a similar mistake, what can you shift in that so that it's happening less often? And that is the power of having a journal about everything that you are doing and experiencing as a trader. So journaling daily, considering it weekly, thinking on the weekend. I don't know if everyone does this, but I will often do my charts on Sunday. And so during that time, you can also think about your journaling of your psychological experience and what you maybe need to adjust. But you can also do this on the monthly level, on a monthly review. And maybe this is something you could schedule with an accountability partner, with someone that really understands your trading style and speaks your language and can give you a private one-on-one hour on Zoom at the end of a month or so many weeks or whatever, and just air it out. Just say what you're frustrated with and what you're proud of and what you couldn't adjust moving forward, and then take notes. Like, let that person give you real-time feedback, be more authentic with them on your actual outcomes. You don't have to tell the world on what days you're having, except for RQ. He's very comfortable sharing, but keep it tight and tell people that you trust, that have your back and that will give you good feedback. And then use that periodically to adjust your playbook. What can you improve and what should you, consider trading a little bit stronger because you have that information. I think that evolution is a part of this whole conversation where we're trying to go. Accountability partner. So I think that accountability partners are very powerful. And I actually think I'm going to do a psychology lab all about how that relationship can work and the pros and cons and how to approach that. I think I'll do that pretty soon here. But for getting one, I would definitely in the BluSky Discord, there's a futures chat, and just put in there the key components. And I think maybe next week, actually, I'll do an accountability lab because I think it's super powerful. But the key things are, ideally, you trade similar instruments. It can be NQ and ES or something, but similar instruments so that we both kind of understand how each other's instruments move. And then someone that isn't on your time zone, is available on the charts when you are, so that you can have a back and forth on Discord. You can DM privately and share maybe if you're at a loss or whatever. So the biggest things is they have an understanding of your instrument and a time confluence where you guys can actually have a conversation, ideally every day. So I think that is really helpful. And so just put out a little advertisement about, hey, my name is Fred and I trade ES. I've been trading, a year. And I would love to have an accountability partner or chat and see if we can help each other. Like Fatima right here is saying like she would love to have an accountability partner. And honestly, I know her personally and she's incredible. So in this situation, you can see her name on the thread. This is a real person. She's engaging. She's making comments. That means that she's been verified by BluSky in order to be able to make comments in these labs. So then you click on her handle and then you can send a friend request. That other person can accept it, or you can message without accepting a friend request and be like, where did you hear about me? Who are you? Are you real? But, just put yourself out there a little bit. You can, see about finding out who else is out there, because I do think having someone to kick this back and forth with will help you personalize your trade book faster, because you can have that kind of more intimate dialogue about what works well for you and what doesn't. So come back next week, Time Trader, and let's talk a little bit more about this. But I do think that traders who are in a community such as this BluSky community believe in the support that provides. You guys are here with me on Tuesday after market because you are dedicated to being a strong trader and you want to have the conversations around getting better and recognizing that psychology is a big part of that. Having someone you can talk to about trading is a massive part of strength in trading, because the rest of the world does not understand the things that we go through, just being honest. So lean into that. We're almost out of time though, so I'm almost done here. But let's learn from others versus making your own. So there's a balance with that, right? You guys know in BluSky, we stream. Mike streams in the morning, Monday through Thursday. Coach Riz streams. I stream, in the afternoons and kind of intermittently. Matt is very consistent on Power Hour. We stream. We talk about the markets. There are people who trade live who you can trade with them. It doesn't have to be copying. It can be observing and learning from. You can learn their principles, how they trade, why they trade. Why did you see that? How did you see that short? What did that look like for you? So you can learn principles and study the why behind what other people are trading. And that's not a bad thing. That doesn't mean that you're not making trading your own. It means you're taking in data and you're seeing what successful traders do. I mean, you do want to make sure it's a trusted source. I happen to think we're pretty solid here at BluSky and have some good coaches and opportunities to see what's going on. It's pretty cool that Mike is back this year in the streaming in the morning at New York Open because there's so much volatility there and he's such a sick trader. So I would advocate for being in these rooms and seeing this, talking it out, hearing what other people are doing. But then the second part here, test and filter. So experiment with the concepts, use a demo account or a live account with micros. Start to being like, okay, he got in there. I think I know why. I'm going to get in with 2 micros and try and do what the heck he's doing, feel it out, hear the conversation, hear what the live streamers are saying, try and manage it similarly, get the outcomes, think about what it did, filter out what worked, what didn't, what clicked, what was weird. If it was weird and you didn't understand it, ask questions because we're totally, all the coaches here at BluSky for sure, are really in support of asking questions because it's super helpful. And then adapt and refine and make it your own. So this is a fluid process of taking in information from multiple sources that are trusted, digging into it, asking questions, figuring out what works, what doesn't, what you can see more easily, the trades that just slide into a successful outcome faster than you can blink and felt easy versus ones you fought and ended red. Modify that, make it your own, make sure your risk fits with your accounts. Someone trading a 300K account versus a 50K account is going to manage it differently and trade with different size. Do you on that and recognize, do some math, figure out what your opportunity is. Time availability is big too with an accountability partner or who you're trying to learn from. I mean, there's no point in learning from Mike's opening bell strategy if you can only trade Power Hour. Make your time work for you and learn the strategy that fits with your life. So, take it all in. That is a huge benefit to the world that we're in, where there's so much available online, there's so much opportunity out there, but filter it, make it your own, understand it, make it uniquely yours, put your strategies, write them down, and then execute them with confidence as your system gets more robust. Alexander Elder has this quote here. The goal of a successful trader is to make the best trades. Money is secondary. So the heart behind this is not the P&L, it's the understanding your trades and then figuring out where to shoot at them and with what size. That's the whole kind of point with all of this, how you can fine tune it and grow your system for you. So I think that this time is worth the investment, essentially. That's the reason why I kind of, brought this conversation up today and wanted to dig into it with you guys, is that building this personalized trading approach, it will take work. There's not really a shortcut with it necessarily, but if you spend months testing, refining, asking questions, showing up to the lab, showing up to the live stream, making friends with our chat here on the psychology lab, which is my favorite thing all day, is this friendship growing right now. But question your trades, make it your own, write it down, evolve it with you, see what's changing in market conditions, and then stick with it. Because I think this whole process takes months at a minimum, but it does become more clear. Your decisions can get quicker. You can have more confidence. You can start to leverage up once you get that understanding of your trades. You get more comfortable in them. You hold through a little drawdown if it's a part of the system. There's less fighting, less pressure, and then you can play to your natural strengths. Your success starts to compound more so. Your foundation is just shored up. It's more robust, it's broader, it takes in more factors, and you see it more clearly. So you can hold more steadily. And I think that the traders who thrive long-term, they're not flashy one-trick ponies. They're ones who have spent the time to learn themselves, trust their playbook because they have poured into it, execute with discipline. I think the success really does flow when we make it more natural for who we are. So that is kind of my jam today, you guys, of how I think there's a lot of support in letting your trading be individual to you and working to get there, allowing the space to let it grow, to take the data collection in, to evolve, to ask questions, to appreciate streamers that are taking certain trades and push at them. push at us, ask why, what do you see, and how would you execute on it? And then start to just, make your system robust and be gentle on yourself, because it does take considerable time to develop that understanding, and you just have to kind of see it. I think that will make us stronger long term by letting us learn it and see it. What did you say, Trent? A few weeks ago, you said scale down to me 2 MGC versus, and then up to 1. Okay. More points per day. You hear about how you can get it more with it. Yes. Okay. Trendy. I love that. Okay. So that's exactly it. If you scale back, you will be able to trade with more psychological stability because you don't trigger that fight or flight so fast. Fight or flight is dangerous for starting a tilt spiral. If you push yourself into higher contract sizes, higher leverage, trade copying before you're fully confident in your system, you will heighten your emotions and not in a good way. And so if while you're doing this process, while you're really creating a robust playbook, that isn't really the time to trade size. It's more so to be really inquisitive on your trades and keep yourself protected and stable psychologically so you can do the work. It's like when you're in college, you're studying, you're asking questions, you're not really making money. But ideally, you'll have a thriving career afterwards. You'll get a great job and an introductory salary with the bonus. But during the period where you're trying to pass your exams, it's not as flashy, but it's powerful. So trading smaller while you're developing the system, digging into your psychology is a great idea. Yeah, scaling up and raising your ceiling both take time though, my friends. Like the heart of all of it is that the potential is there and it will always be there. And trading is incredible. We can leverage up a lot, like potentially to Mike's level where he made 100,000. Mike and Steve, like they throw up some numbers sometimes and it's like, whoop, they didn't do that overnight, and you shouldn't either. You should really hone your edge and have a really strong understanding of your trades when you're putting on size. And so this is a fundamental part of that beyond the technicals that will make you stronger. I'll thank you guys for being here with me. Does anyone have any questions, thoughts, feedback? Who has an accountability partner? Because I think there's a good conversation around that and what that relationship could look like, how you can structure it, what the benefits are, what the risks are. Should we talk about that? Yeah, your wife is. That's great. I know a lot of people who confide in their personal partner, because, your money is wrapped up together. So having some honesty there is really important. And I know some people who cannot talk trading with their partner because it is too much of a stress point potentially. So I think we'll dig into that next week. But if you guys have any questions or topics ever, let me know. I am totally available to be friends, but I think it will help us all be stronger to have a strong community. And we are here for that at BluSky. All of the coaches really love it when you guys come to the streams, to the labs. It's great conversation. We can kind of make each other better, have feedback and questions and a conversation around all the topics that your coaches bring up, but then we can kind of make it our own as a group. And I think that brings good energy. So, next time you come, bring a friend. BluSky is just continuously growing. We have plans for even more expansion and education. And so hang out. I support all supportive relationships that are healthy and balanced and make you all better. So do that. And let me know how it goes. And happy Taco Tuesday. I think we're approaching the evening on the East Coast and trading session is closed. We have the opportunity to enjoy the rest of our time today. Thank you. Thanks for being here, everyone. And hit me up anytime in BluSky Discord. You can message me directly. Any questions, thoughts, comments, I'm fully available. And I just really appreciate you all at BluSky. I'm really glad that we get to learn and grow together. So tomorrow, bright and early, hour before market open, you guys, is unemployment data for the month. So have your, careful with that. And then Mike streams in the morning, Monday through Thursday is the plan. So we'll see you guys all on the charts tomorrow. Take care, everyone.